What is the Daniel fast? Let's talk about it. If you're new here, we're starting the Daniel fast on the 1st, as well as the Jesus challenge and some other habits to kick off 2024 as strong as possible. But fasting was the second habit that we're doing. A lot of you wanted to know what the Daniel fast is, and there's a biblical meaning and there's a practical explanation. The Daniel fast is based on a few passages in the book of Daniel in the Bible. It's essentially a vegan diet with no sugar, refined carbs, caffeine, or alcohol. It's a method of spiritual fasting based on the prophet Daniel's experience when he fasted in the Bible. The first passage in the Bible is Daniel 1:12. To give a little context, King Nebuchadnezzar was ruling in this time and wanted to feed Daniel and all of his servants a certain kind of food. But Daniel was like, no, I don't want to eat that. Can I please stick to my veggies? If you let me do this as a test, I'll show you that it's good for you. So he says, please test your servants for 10 days and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Verse 15 says, at the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than everyone else who was eating the other diet. Another verse is Daniel 10:2-3, and it says, in those days I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant food, no meat or wine came into my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. Daniel is explaining a vision that he got from God, and it was during those 3 weeks that he got that vision. And basically how I would see it is because he was fasting from certain things, he was very clear about relying on God, seeking God for wisdom. So his mind got clear, which was how he was able to hear and see the vision. So the biblical meaning is showing how Daniel gave up certain foods to gain wisdom and insight. And it just ended up making him stronger and more nourished. So that's how it ties into the Bible. Now, ultimately, when it comes to fasting, you can fast from anything. It doesn't have to be the Daniel fast. The motive with fasting, it's a spiritual practice. So it's dying to ourselves, dying to our flesh, what we're craving, what we want, what we desire, and leaning on God for strength when we feel weak. Because it's not if we feel weak when it comes to fasting, it's when. So giving up things that we're used to or that we may crave. For example, caffeine. I'm gonna have major caffeine withdrawals, I already know it. And it's in the midst of those withdrawals that I lean on God for strength. And so your awareness of leaning on God is a lot more often because you're lacking your normal stuff, right? Your body's gonna be like, what the heck is happening? But it really just helps you focus on God. Brings your attention back to God constantly throughout your day because you're gonna be fasting and you're gonna be more weak. God's power is made perfect in our weakness. So when we're weak in the midst of fasting, it's such a great opportunity to experience God's power. The amount of clarity and peace and connection to God that you feel in the midst of fasting is so cool. Every single time I stop a fast, I'm like, what the heck did I just experience? It increases your faith. It increases your ability to know that you can lean on God when you're feeling weak and that He can take over. It helps you feel capable to stray from temptation because it's teaching you how to say no. It's teaching you how to rely on God's strength and not your own. Humbling ourselves. Fasting just shows how weak we can be. So that's the biblical tie-in and a little explanation of what fasting is. Now let's talk about what foods you can and can't eat. Shouts out TC Nation. I got these photos from their Instagram. I am a TC lover from afar. So these are all the foods that you can eat. Fruits, veggies, whole grains, other natural foods, sweeteners like honey and agave. I'll add these to my story so that you guys can grab them, or you can head to their Instagram. But it's basically a vegan diet. And these are the foods to avoid. So meat, white rice, white flour, no bread, fried foods, caffeine and caffeinated beverages, sugar, artificial sweeteners, dairy. So that's a little overview of what you can and can't eat and what it all means. If you want to try fasting, join me. I'm thinking about sharing my journey and what I make, and I might buy a Daniel fast cookbook. If you've never tried fasting, I highly recommend. But if the Daniel fast seems too much for you or you can't do it for any reason, maybe try giving up something that would be hard for you. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's chocolate, maybe it's just bread, maybe it's just caffeine. You can make your own rules. The point is just to die to yourself and to lean on God. And what better time to do that than the new year, okay?